So in the west of Scotland, off of the coast, of course, there are many, many islands, and the jumping off point to get to most of these islands, or many of these islands, is the seaside town of Oban. Oban is a pretty small place, but really cute. You can see its harbor front here. It's very charming. Up on the hill, you have this sort of unfinished Colosseum that's called McCaig's Tower that you can hike up through the neighborhoods and check out people's gardens and just get nice sweeping views over the water. Oban is known as the gateway to the Isles, so it's a great little seaside town. Our tour groups like to stay in B&Bs just on the esplanade there by the water, so lots of really great B&B options in Oban, and you can just sit out front and enjoy views like this. So it's absolutely a charming town with beautiful views to boot. Not surprisingly, there is a lot of great seafood in Oban. This is the ferry terminal, but you can see all the little fishing boats there. So just wander down, even if you're not taking a day trip out to any of the islands or heading out for longer trips to any of the islands, and see what's been caught fresh. You don't have to eat in a fancy seafood restaurant either to enjoy this. There are a couple of just small sort of walk up and order and then take your stuff to a picnic table seafood restaurants right there by the ferry terminal, and you can see that that's a pretty nice looking seafood platter for a pretty affordable price just to enjoy right there on the water. So I'd highly recommend that. The most popular and also probably most accessible trip out to an island from Oban is to the Isle of Mull and to the Isle of Iona. So Iona is Scotland's holy isle. It is where Christianity came at the end of the 6th century, so the late 500s, from Ireland to Scotland. So it's very important from that respect, but it's also just a very peaceful, beautiful island. So you can do a day trip. You have to take the ferry to Mull and then drive across Mull and then take another ferry to get to Iona. But being on the ferry is a really enjoyable experience anyway. It is, first of all, an important part of Scottish life. For people who live out in the islands, it is a literal lifeline, and it's just a lot of fun to have all that fresh air, and usually there's a pub on the boat if you want to just get a pint and pass the time. You can absolutely do that. Sometimes you might even find a bunch of people playing music, especially in the summer. People going to and from music festivals, young musicians, just having a tune. So it's great. If you are going just for the day trip to Iona, you probably won't stop in the main town on Mull, which is Tobermory. It's not where the ferry gets in. You would get off the ferry and then drive north. But if you would like to stay in Mull and not just do the day trip like most people do, Tobermory is a really nice option. It has a distillery, and as you can see, it's just a really lovely little town by the water. But for most day trippers, or most people who travel out to Mull who are visiting from abroad, drive across the island, which itself is stunning, and usually you have it, if you're not driving yourself, you would be taking a bus and you might have a narrated guide on the way over. You might have a guide narrating your trip across Mull, talking about the wildlife and the sea eagles and all of the really interesting geology and the sea cliffs and everything like that. So it's just a stunning island with a lot to offer. You get to the far end and suddenly it looks like you're in Greece or something, and you have this pink granite and white sand and turquoise water, and then you hop on board a little teeny tiny ferry for another 10-minute ferry ride. Wait patiently, and then this is what you come to. So again, this is Iona, Scotland's holy island. It is just absolutely stunning, especially when you have beautiful weather like this. I mean, can you believe that that's not in the Caribbean, really, that water? So the Abbey is there. It's not the original Abbey, of course, but it still has a very active church community, and it's ecumenical, so it's just they welcome everybody. And you can go and spend some time there and do a retreat, or you can just walk through and check it out and be on your way. But I just find it to be a very, very peaceful and wonderful place. You can stroll through the graveyard where ages and ages ago many of the kings of Scotland were buried, or the nunnery ruins. My favorite site in Iona is the local heritage center. It's a small museum with a cafe out back, and you just learn about the local history, and they have things on display like all of the different types of seashells found on the island and all of the different types of rocks from different areas, and it's just a really fun way to learn about a very particular community and a very particular place in Scotland. So I enjoy checking out all of the little tiny museums, not just in Iona, but wherever I happen to be when you're driving through. When you're driving through any small town in Scotland, pull over and pop into a bakery and ask, hey, is there any small museum or anything happening in this town? And just check it out. Get right in there. If you have a couple of hours, check out some of Iona's beaches. Absolutely stunning, white sandy beaches. The water is not warm, but you can definitely take off your shoes and socks and at least just go for a little wade, which in Scotland they would call it a paddle. Go for a paddle. I just want to give a quick plug here for the Western Isles. So we don't really cover the islands that are further out off of the coast. We cover in our guidebooks, that is, we cover Mull and Iona, of course. But if that looks like heaven to you, I would just encourage you to consider going further to Lewis and Harris, the islands of Lewis and Harris. You might not think you've heard of Harris, but if you've heard of Harris Tweed, you've heard of Harris. North and South Uist, Barra, all of these islands are just not heavily visited at all, and some of them have some of the most stunning beaches you've ever seen. Another very popular place to visit in Scotland is the Isle of Skye. It is an island, but you can drive there conveniently. They have a bridge, so you can take a ferry from one point, or you can just drive across, which is really handy. You definitely want to have a car. You can get there by bus. The train does not go there, but if you want to be able to get around, it's going to be handy to have a car. There are also buses that go around the island, but there's not going to be any service on Sunday, and it will be infrequent. And if you want to really get out and explore, just drive yourself. Skye's main appeal, of course, is just the stunning scenery and this incredible, it's unparalleled. Again, there are many places in Scotland like this with just unparalleled beauty of scenery. Famous for its fairy pools, and it's just a great place for hiking. You can do some serious mountaineering and climbing up some of the taller peaks, or just go for shorter walks on nice, easy trails like this. The main town on Skye is Portree. That's the name of it. And I mentioned this in an earlier part of the talk, but if you're going to Skye, again, I want to stress, please book your accommodation well ahead of time. It is very popular, and there are not tons of places to stay anyway, so you'll need to book well in advance. Whether you stay in Portree or whether you go to Skye at all and you find yourself in another town on another island or some other part of the Highlands, just ask around. Go into the pub. Go into, if there's a tourist info office, go in. Go into a bakery. Ask people you meet on the street what's happening in town. Because in the Highlands and in the islands, a lot of time, especially in the summer, you have local events happening, local musical summer camps and things like that. So a couple of the things that you want to be on the lookout for are, is there any cèilidh happening? A cèilidh means a gathering, but really what it typically is a dance. So find that local dance. It doesn't matter if you don't know how. They will teach you, or you don't have to learn. You can just sit and watch, but it is an unparalleled, fun experience that is very unique to Scotland. So I'd encourage you to ask around and try and seek something like this out. If you're very lucky, you might even encounter in a pub something like this, which I did once upon a time. 8 people all playing the Great Highland bagpipes inside the pub. Whew. What do you think? But really, really phenomenal, kind of, for me, life-changing experience. Might be a little bit too much for you, like some people in the pub, but hey, you're never going to forget that if you happen upon something like that. Or even if you happen upon something a little bit quieter. So I mentioned cèilidhs. That's going to be a dance or a gathering. You can also ask people, where is there a session happening? And a session would just be people in a pub, most likely, playing tunes. And it's not a performance, it's not a concert, it's just 1 or 2 people who are going to be there for a particular period of time, and whoever else wants to come and join and play tunes with them will come and join. So it's just live traditional Scottish music, and for me that's one of the best things that Scotland has to offer. So try and seek it out. Either way, just remember to stop and breathe and take it all in. Enjoy all that fresh air and enjoy all the beautiful, breathtaking views, and happy travels. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you.